People are being really crap about hexagrams right now. Remember, hexagrams are not actually the Star of David, as people would say, even though they are the Star of David. It's two different things at the same time, same thing. But when you actually see things very simple, going up and then down, think of the Last Supper and stuff. You see the sacred feminine. When that is broken and you end up having the sacred masculine on top, and that is not broken, you're actually getting a symbolic break of femininity. It may not be intentional, but look at it looks like Hitler playing saxophone image from the Transylvania Times. And also compared to the things I've been talking about at Helen, Georgia, when they've been doing things that are very odd as far as graffiti. There's a hexagram with TR in the middle, like that, on the sacred feminine line. That's broken with a TR done that way. I'm sure somebody could analyze handwriting, but it's very obvious that people are really hating on women. And the reason why they're hating on women is the same reason they're hating on anything else. People get a bad reputation. People fill in the gaps for oppression with bad behavior. Bad behavior is considered de rigueur. You go ahead and have a lot more of it. There's not a lot of accountability in the types of homes that create these problems. People are just given up and given in. It's bull crap. It is something that I made a few videos about. Beaten for it. I've had all kinds of problems with it, but the truth is that women are not a substandard species or something that needs to be eliminated or removed. It is just popular to go ahead and talk like that. It is very easy to put a dial tone in someone's head unless they look like a porn star. That's not how pornographic type of sex works, even though you can do it that way. It's a lot hotter if you do actual, I don't want to say bespoke because it means paid ahead, but you actually do your work, your custom work. Performative beauty is not appreciation of beauty. Every generation or so has a different look they like, but appreciation of it is eternal. That's why we can go to museums all over the world. But catch people where they're doing it. It's very subtle, but that's usually what you find. And as an example, hilarity, if you like visual humor and you think that kind of stuff's funny, it shouldn't be funny. But yet we have assigned that phenotype and that hairstyle and that look to be humorous. Charlie Chaplin's not that funny in face, you know what I mean? But we've assigned humor to that to get to where we don't have to worry about it. Because it's easier to laugh at something than to listen to something. And when you start listening, then what you find is the same old crap again. The training videos, blaming people. People always have the pet theory. The truth is that systems work the way systems work. If you create a crappy system, you get crappy results. If you create a system that creates gold diggers and scumbags and all that kind of stuff, you get scumbags and gold diggers. If you create a system that creates quality people who know how to go ahead and actually deport themselves and to really create the life that we want, then you get that. So, it's all in the systems. Any bit of progress always works the same way, feedback works. Top from bottom doesn't work as well as bottom from top. Leader versus boss. We all know how to do this stuff. So, kick the belief that you don't get to go ahead and actually treat women well and all this kind of stuff. Kick the belief that women are not able to do these things, like artwork, for instance. A lot of people don't think we're serious. I don't get that. But also, people talk about a woman having her place in the home. Both genders are rooted in the home. And when you get that half right, you actually are able to have a stronger man, woman, in between, child, whatever, because that's the way bodies work. My excuse to say, you have to eat, you have to shit, you have to sleep. And if you don't sleep right, bad things happen. If that's structure, that's all kinds of manufacturing, that's all kinds of, you know, housing, it's shelters, all that kind of stuff. It all security, it's also because there's a difference between sleeping in a tent where you feel secure, sleeping in a tent where it's rough, sleeping in a tent when a rape town happens, and sleeping where you might get arrested, or all of it. So that actually does matter. Shitting, of course, it's also waste and recycling and all that kind of stuff. And eating can also be spiritual food, mental food, all that kind of stuff. So square for all that, you get it. I'm tired. You can tell I'm tired. You know better. Hopefully I'm not seeing it, but, brown Nazis suck too. And it's no surprise that Chase Manhattan Bank and stuff like this is actually tied in to a lot of these expressions of hate. That also goes to the AME Church. The AME Church is a mixed bag like any other church or any group, it happens. But the SEC Church was actually tied into the removal more than white people are, okay? And white people as a monolithic group did not do that. You got to understand that. And that's not prevarication, that's BS, that's just saying that phenotype did not do it. It was the SEC Church and the people followed them. The other part of it is when churches do route all that money to places that do Holocaust, that's a problem. But also, the small loans, the microloans, the no collateral small loans with normal interest, those things that went away, those do underpin a community, and people should not be having to give those as private loans. Certainly we do if we can. I've done it before, but it's something that should be done in the banking industry. There's not anything. If you can do a title loan or a pawn loan with your amount of money you make on paperwork, you can do a small home loan for $20,000 for a home that's worth, $100 if someone occupies and takes care of it. We know this, okay? And you can also do the geothermals and vaults. You can do all kinds of things like that to make it to where, heating and cooling is stable and is not going to hurt things. For instance, a Prius, batteries are 90% or so, 99% or something like that. So between 90 and 99% recyclable, depending on the model year. There's a lot of things you can do with that. So the other thing is, back in the old history, there was a plot that was not a slave rebellion in a way to go ahead and protect yourself. It was not in a slave rebellion in a way to go get freedom. It was not a slave rebellion that was not linked into the Denmark and also Norwegian BS that my people kind of left to go ahead and minister and escape from. Vic is a place, and that's where Vikings come from, and Telemark is a place, and so is Denmark. And that man was advocating genocide while he's being helped by German Moravians. Notice how many people talk about the Moravian and German history in Charleston. Notice how many people talk about the Quaker history in Charleston. It's such a big part of our Southern heritage, but that Holocaust is still going on. And the same banks that are run through a lot of those churches are actually the banks that ran the Nazi government. And when you also look at the Nazi situation, think of how many young men were drafted really, really young by the powers that be, and you're not fighting in a Nazi uniform, you're fighting in a German uniform. Same type of things happening to our men and women in service all over the world. When you are not getting good orders and you're fighting on behalf of bankers, you are being treated. Like, guess what? I have a video on that too, and it's rooted. So that also goes back to that whole conspiracy. So we're dealing with that crap again. Genocide isn't cool, and neither is hate on gender, sexism, expression, phenotypes, anything like this. You all know better. Everybody knows better. Statistically, I've proven it. And at this point, you just go ahead and say, maybe we need to go ahead and channel our aggression and our frustration and our shit talking into something a little bit more productive, and also quit doing what I did and Matt did, I believe, finding somebody that should be your friend and feeling sorry for them because they're not your exact type, and then locking them down for too long. If men would just quit white knighting women and start being equal partners, they would not have to go and have these problems of, oh, I don't love my wife. Pick who you really want to be with. So whether that's one night or forever or whatever it is, just be honest. Okay, most people want what you want. You're just not stupidly, okay? Dolphin safe tuna, okay? So get with it and notice and start talking about what these symbols mean. We shouldn't. I have gnats all over this area, but we shouldn't be still arguing over things like a swastika when it's worldwide used in one way by so many different groups, and we all know how it got appropriated, and we can all do the math and trace it back to the bankers. We can also go ahead and do the math and figure out how fraudulent eugenics and things like this were constructively trying to work about removing pain and suffering. We get that. And when you get somebody who is so motivated to get rid of pain and suffering, then you're dealing with somebody who is trying to be good. I can work with people trying to be good as long as they don't have a cop up their butt about not being good. Okay? If they go ahead and say, I'm not going to change my opinion because I am so scared of pain, that's what we go ahead and find in, genital mutilation. That's what we have in the Denmark VC problem. You find some people who are so scared of pain because they've experienced some of it or they've watched it, and they're trying to do everything they can to get rid of it. That fragility is what kills people. So if I have a cavalier streak in me that is pretty rude and laughs at my own pain and stuff like this, that's actually a technique and part of the system to go ahead and create the ability to rise above every single thing that's happened. So let's get strict on ourselves and start discussing symbols, start discussing heritage, and not be scared of things like, mutual ownership of Earth and beyond. I think that's where we're working on, and I think we all know it. So instead of having a piss fight, it's a lot better to go ahead and use that urine to actually fertilize the ground. Okay? Kind of frustrated with y'all. But, it seems like this twin situation of you can't get anything into the local paper if it is not supporting colony, and the bellyaching over colony when there's been many different colonies through here. There has been, the old, well before Columbus, kingdoms and freedoms and all this kind of stuff. Different, before even Longavilla and stuff, you end up having, I was told the what Aztec lines, and I can't help that we happen to tick that box on a census. I'm just here, okay? But that's part of the history, and that's why one reason barbecues through the entire thing, because we're all connected to the same people, okay? So, trade works better, being a dick doesn't, and also Columbus has a different story to tell than a lot of people say. So, sometimes you don't Columbus something, sometimes you go ahead and say, hey, that place over there where they're doing XYZ exists, okay? And that's kind of what happened at that point, even though he was a shitbag at some point too. Being able to talk fully about these things takes a lot of emotional security. It also takes a lot of intellectual curiosity and courage. And that courage means even when it's scary and you're talking about things that hurt, you still can't go ahead and say, well, for her own good, I'll cut off her clit or reduce it so that way she won't feel sexual pleasure. That way she won't go ahead and feel hurt because I happen to go ahead and be on the down low, and I'm going to try to make sure that no one can fuck her because I am so scared of women actually having fun. That's what a lot of this stuff is coming from, and it's not something people need to worry about. And it's also not something people need to assign scapegoating or assign things that people do with fear. We don't need to Holocaust to be free. We need to make sure that the court actually recognizes freedom and that everything that we do is working toward freedom. I don't want to have to think about it. I want to be able to go and get a spicy chicken sandwich and not think about debeaked birds and people wearing diapers cleaning the chicken and minimum wage workers, having gangland violence in the middle of the kitchen and people, you know, working 14-hour shifts and doing a lot of uppers, and all of those uppers coming from deforested Brazil and things like that, and attributing to crime, and the wheat coming from a bad wheat company. It's all not being taken care of the land. It's not going ahead and actually being a good non-allergenic food for a lot of people. When you could use Kemetic or you use other ancient things that don't come out of that area. I just want to go ahead and get a stupid burger, you know what I mean? And if we can go ahead and make sure that everybody has the tools to create their fast food to where it is that easy to go ahead and make sure that no one has to think about debeaked birds because they don't exist. At that point, we will be able to have that transparency that allows free enterprise to work. Modern Germany's shown that worked before people kind of took its teeth out because we decided to be sketchy about Germans because somebody's watching too much Nazi porn and felt a little bit weird at home because they started worrying about their daughter, not wanting to go ahead and actually expose her to that stuff, and maybe since then they want to go ahead and actually create a Holocaust on women. I mean, that's where I grew up effectively. So be able to go ahead and actually discuss these symbols and realize ownership is with the people, not with a man who hired a band and put it on a flag and marched around for a banker, okay? Because that's exactly why people are pissed off about church. That's exactly why people are pissed off about money. That's exactly why people are pissed off about work. And that's definitely why people are pissed off about gender indifference. So, system in, system out feedback. Yeah, we kind of have a problem on the floor, So, we know what to do. Get wise.